Hello and welcome to WION World is One. I'm Ghadi Francis and this is the West Asia Post, our weekly show where we bring you all the latest updates and stories from this part of the world. Right now I'm standing in the city of Byblos, one of the oldest cities on the Mediterranean, and this is Lebanon. This is where our top story begins. Lebanon went to polls last Sunday. The elections were particularly important. They were needed to show the world that they could bring in reforms to unlock aid from donor nations and allies. But the results were not really shocking. They still signaled at a wave of change in the crisis-hit nation. In our next report, we tell you all about the elections.
Last Sunday, Lebanon voted in its most crucial election, the first since the October 2019 protests. It is going through its worst economic crisis in decades, a result of poor financial policies. So, these elections were particularly crucial, and the results are here. Hezbollah and its allies have lost their parliamentary majority. A big setback for the bloc. They won 62 seats in the parliament, falling short of the 65 seats needed for a majority. While the Hezbollah has retained its seats, its other ally, like the Free Patriotic Movement, suffered some losses. The Hezbollah is Lebanon's most powerful faction. It was founded in 1982 and is backed by Iran, financially and politically. The Shia group's political sway has expanded since 2018. In the last election, together with its allies, Hezbollah won a parliamentary majority. Hezbollah and its allies won 71 seats in the 128-member parliament. But this time it did not even manage to reach 64. The group registered some gains in Sunni constituencies. These usually vote for candidates backed by former Prime Minister Saad Hariri. The Sunni leader's exit from politics meant that those voters were up for grabs. So, some of the votes went to them. Others went to the new reformist candidates. At least 13 independents who backed the 2019 protest movement won seats. 12 of them will sit in the parliament for the first time. This win comes as a major breakthrough for the independents. It reflects public anger at the country's ruling elite and a lack of accountability for the Beirut port blast. In the capital Beirut, at least 5 out of 19 elected MPs are independents. The independent MPs can now weigh in on the government formation. Most of them are anti-Hezbollah, but it is not sure if they will align with other parties.
Of course, no one is under the illusion that Hezbollah is no longer present or strong. No, it's still strong and is still firmly present, but its dominance over the whole situation has greatly diminished.
The group that has made the most gains is the Lebanese Forces. It gained around 5 MPs in one of the poll's biggest victories. The Lebanese Forces was established in 1976 as Lebanon descended into civil war. It was created by Bashir Gemayel, a Maronite Christian. Samir Giagia took control of the movement in 1986. The Lebanese Forces agreed to the peace deal that ended the civil war in 1991. Lebanese authorities banned the Lebanese Forces in 1994, jailing many LF activists and seizing their assets. Currently, the Saudi-aligned groups is one of Hezbollah's biggest opponents. The LF has stayed out of government since the 2019 protests.
This is a national celebration par excellence. After 2.5 years of directly facing off in the streets against a government of injustice, finally we have begun the journey to change in Lebanon. This is a national celebration.
What makes the election even more complicated is the sectarian power-sharing system. In Lebanon, the president must be a Maronite, the prime minister is a Sunni, and the speaker of the parliament must be a Shia. Lebanon's next parliament will feature fragmented blocs. It will include a smaller share of seats for Hezbollah and its allies, a more empowered Lebanese Forces party, and a surprise showing for reform-minded first-time MPs. Alliances may shift as parties form parliamentary blocs, but no bloc currently has a majority. This could lead to a political deadlock as deeply divided factions hash out power-sharing deals. Lebanon's next parliament must elect a speaker. This is before it nominates a prime minister to form a cabinet. Lawmakers are also due to elect a president to replace Aoun, whose term ends on October 31st. Any delay in cabinet formation may further postpone reforms that are needed to address Lebanon's crippling economic crisis and unlock urgent donor aid. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
In Lebanon, Mark Daou has become a household name. The Lebanese social and political activist was able to emerge as a giant killer in the elections. He pulled off what was one of the biggest shakes for the traditional political class. Hezbollah ally Druze Talal Arslan lost his seat to newcomer Mark Daou. Arslan is the scion of one of the oldest political dynasties in Lebanon, while the newcomer Mark Daou ran the elections on a reform agenda. We had an exclusive conversation with him. Listen in to what Mark Daou, the new elected leader, had to say. Congratulations on your win. It has been really inspirational internally, locally and globally, since you beat one of the really old dynasties in Lebanon. How do you reflect on your win? What does it mean?
I believe it's a sign of massive change in Lebanon on a political and social level. And that was hastened by the crisis, the economic and political crisis that has hit the country. So we entered into a new phase in this country's political history, which is redefining how people want to be represented, what are the top priorities in their perception and their understanding of the roles of politicians. Today, people want representatives, not feudal leaders. And that is exactly how they voted across all the country for new faces in massive numbers. We did not win seats, we actually won tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of votes all across Lebanon. This is a massive change in the political landscape. It is no longer about one seat or a competitor like myself winning over another competitor from a traditional party.
Have you decided whether to ally with the Lebanese forces or not yet? Because it seems that they are the second biggest bloc.
Yes, I believe they have a different agenda than the one we're approaching because they still treat the system as sectarian silos, and their alliances throughout the elections have been a reflection of that. Depends on what items on the agenda we might meet with them or others. It's the same for us, but to build a working relationship or an alliance requires a lot more that I don't see the Lebanese forces have what it takes to convince us.
Let's speak a little bit about Hezbollah. You have been very vocal for years in every convention, in every participation, in every media presence, and press release, whether as a person or a party, against Hezbollah. But regardless of the title that is going around the country or even the global news, Hezbollah, anti-Hezbollah, some statistics companies did ask the Lebanese people 1 month before the elections about their priorities. And the priority was not Hezbollah's arms based on these studies. The priority was food, bread, future, fuel, dollar rate. So will we hear these titles inside the parliament? Will it turn into a polarized conflict, political conflict, or are you going to find a common ground regarding the economical issues and let the regional politics aside? Are you really entering the parliament in a battle with Hezbollah presence in Lebanon? Or will that be aside in your political feud with them?
Yeah, we don't have a problem with Hezbollah's presence in Lebanon. We have a problem with Hezbollah's arms that are illegal in Lebanon. They are a political party and they are represented, and they will be debated with and discussed throughout parliament. The issue that we have is that their weapons and their regional foreign policy and their forceful use of violations of the Lebanese sovereignty and Lebanese borders and undermining the state systematically has economic effects. Every poll I've seen for 20 years on elections always highlights socioeconomic issues. But everyone realizes now that the solution for socioeconomic cannot be achieved without a resolution as well, hand in hand, with the problems that we have caused by the weapons of Hezbollah not being within the state or subjected to the decisions of the sovereignty of Lebanon. So we need to find a resolution for that solution, and that is a priority for us to be able to stabilize the Lebanese lira, to regain a growth in our economy, and to be able to develop the systems of the state so it can be more in service of the people.
From Lebanon to the UAE, Israel, and others, we have a lot more lined up for you in this edition of the West Asia Post. But first, let's take a look at what else is making the headlines across the region.
According to a report, US President Joe Biden and Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed could meet for the first time as soon as next month. Officials are in talks with the Saudis about arranging a potential in-person meeting while Biden is overseas next month. Yemen's Houthi rebels are considering renewing a United Nations brokered truce with the government, which expires in 2 weeks. This comes after the first commercial flight in nearly 6 years took off from Sana'a. In a first, Russian military is said to have fired S-300 missiles at Israeli jets over Syria in what could signal a significant shift in Moscow's attitude to Israel. Jordan's King Abdullah II says his half-brother Prince Hamza, who was accused of an attempted coup last year, is in a state of delusion and will remain under house arrest. Israel's military says it will not conduct a criminal probe into journalist Shireen Abu Akleh's killing. Israel says that there is no suspicion of a criminal act, a move that could lead to massive backlash. Female referees are set to officiate at the 2022 FIFA World Cup for the first time in the tournament's history. 3 women referees and 3 women assistant referees will be part of the World Cup in Qatar.
Sheikh Mohamed Bin Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, or MBZ. He's the new president of the UAE and arguably the most powerful leader in the Arab world. MBZ was able to expand the UAE's power following America's lead. But now, he seems to have an agenda of his own in the region. We tell you more in our next report.
In 1991, Prince Mohammed bin Zayed was in Washington. The trip took place just after Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. So what the young prince wanted was weapons from Washington. His sole aim was to protect the oil-rich monarchy. He wanted so many weapons that the Congress got worried. They thought he would destabilize the region. But the Pentagon thought differently. They thought Prince MBZ would be a promising partner. The prince was serious-minded. He studied in Britain and he did not beat around the bush. A fluent English speaker and trained at Sandhurst, MBZ's style also found favor with allied militaries. 33 years later, MBZ is the new president of the United Arab Emirates, controlling sovereign wealth funds worth $1.3 trillion. MBZ may have become the president recently, but he has been calling the shots in UAE for years. He has been the de facto ruler ever since his half-brother got a stroke in 2014. Now, MBZ takes formal control of the Gulf nation of 10 million. He also succeeded Sheikh Khalifa as ruler of Abu Dhabi, which sits on 90% of the United Arab Emirates oil wealth. MBZ has played a crucial role in changing the UAE's image. It went from being a desert outpost to a booming state, fueled by its oil wealth and Dubai's rise as a financial hub. Liberal and pro-business, full of high-tech surveillance and a military that is the most powerful in the Arab world. MBZ cemented his power through influential partnerships. For decades, the prince has been a key American ally, but recently he is taking his own route in conflicts, in partnerships, and in supporting other Gulf nations. MBZ is known for doing what he wants. The Ukraine crisis exposed just that. He rebuffed US calls to pump more oil. Abu Dhabi has ignored other US concerns by arming and backing Libya's Khalifa Haftar, and also ended up engaging with Syria's Bashar al-Assad. With Riyadh, tensions grew when UAE withdrew from the Yemen war, something MBZ did despite Saudi Arabia's growing concerns. MBZ has long argued that the Arab world is not ready for democracy. But what made UAE different was its liberalism. Women have more opportunities here, religions have more representation, and the prince has even hosted Pope Francis. The idea is simple. Most of the UAE's population is foreign workers, and the prince believes tolerance can go a long way. After Sheikh Khalifa's death, airplanes carrying world leaders landed in UAE. They were there to offer condolences and acknowledge the influence of the man now fully in charge. Mohamed Bin Zayed Al Nahyan rarely speaks publicly, but he is arguably the most powerful ruler in the Arab world. Through his long-time relationship with the US military, his opposition to Iran and Muslim Brotherhood, and his country's new ties with Israel, MBZ's new reign now comes with a fresh opportunity to cement the UAE's rapid advance in the region. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Israel's coalition government is now in the minority. An Arab-Israeli lawmaker has quit the government, citing the harassment her part of the society faces. Now, Bennett's government has 59 seats out of the 120 seats in the Knesset. This could mean that this government could collapse anytime soon, or would it hold on till the next budget? Our next report brings you more.
Naftali Bennett seems to be having a terrible month. First, there were the clashes at Al-Aqsa. Then there was the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh. And now his own government is on the verge of collapse. Another lawmaker has quit the coalition. This time, it is an Arab-Israeli lawmaker. Ghaida Rinawi Zoabi's exit has left the Bennett government in minority. The coalition now has only 59 out of the Knesset's 120 seats. In her resignation letter, Zoabi wrote that she had joined the coalition with hope, a hope that Arab and Jews could work together. But the recent violence at Al-Aqsa and at journalist Shireen Abu Akleh's funeral forced her hand. She could not be part of a government that harasses the society she comes from. Is she joining the opposition? No answers yet. However, she is still serving as a lawmaker in the Knesset. The current coalition government spans a wide spectrum. There's the Yesh Atid party, Benny Gantz's Blue and White, Lieberman's Betanu, the Labour Party, Bennett's Yamina, Gideon Sa'ar's New Hope, the Meretz Party have 6 each, and finally, Abbas United Arab List, the magic number is 61, and the 8 factions had a total of 62 seats. But now the recent exits have left them struggling. Earlier, 2 lawmakers quit the coalition. Now Zoabi's exit makes the situation far worse. They have 59 seats out of 120. On any other day, this would mean good news for Benjamin Netanyahu. But the Likud party leader is facing rebellion himself. This is over his decision to not support a coalition bill, one that will fund tuition scholarships for newly released IDF soldiers. Several lawmakers want to defy Bibi and vote with the coalition. So Likud is not exactly in great shape itself. The coalition government can only survive with only 59 seats until March 2023. This is when a new budget has to be approved. For now, it is impossible for Netanyahu to form a new government. He does not have the support of 61 lawmakers. But if last-minute defections do take place, Israel is staring at another election, its 5th in a span of more than 2 years. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Sandstorms. West Asia is no stranger to them, but in the most recent years they have become more frequent and more intense. In the last few days, sandstorms engulfed the Gulf and other regions in West Asia, derailing daily life and causing respiratory problems. Our next report tells you more.
Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. Sandstorms have engulfed West Asia, disrupting daily lives and bringing cities to a standstill. Flights are delayed, schools are closed, buildings are barely visible, and thousands are facing respiratory problems.
Since dawn, we have received about 40 cases of suffocation. Most of them have chronic diseases related to asthma or have bronchitis. Most of them are elderly.
Iraq has witnessed 8 dust storms since mid-April. On Monday, a thick cloud of dust enveloped the country. Yellow and orange sand covered building roofs, cars, and even crept into homes. Schools across the nation were shuttered, and government employees were asked to stay at home. The war-torn nation is no stranger to sandstorms. Iraq is classified as one of the world's 5 countries most vulnerable to climate change and desertification.
These storms have become monthly. Every 3 or 4 days they come back. It's due to climate change and the lack of rain when people feel suffocated. There is no oxygen and have to go get oxygen.
Other Gulf nations are also grappling with frequent sandstorms. On Tuesday, Saudi Arabia was blanketed with dust. More than 1,200 people were hospitalized. Drivers were warned to reduce the speed of their vehicles. In Kuwait, air traffic at the main airport was suspended, while in Dubai, the world's tallest building disappeared behind a grey layer of dust. Sandstorms are not new in the region, but they've become more intense and frequent. They've been fueled by several factors, like soil degradation, intense droughts, low rainfall, overgrazing, deforestation, and overuse of river water, all related to climate change. Currently, the entire region is distracted, blind to the long-term threat of climate change. But ignoring it will not make climate crisis go away, as skies across the region turn orange and thousands deal with respiratory problems. Climate change will have to be higher up on the agenda. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, bringing you more stories from the world's most volatile region. Until then, stay safe. I'm coming to you from Byblos, Lebanon. I'm Ghadi Francis, and you're watching WION World is One.